I'm joined now by Calvin Dark. He's the principal and co-founder of RC Communications. So there were all these complaints by the Republicans about process. But they had hearings like this with Benghazi where they did it in closed session. And that's basically so you go and you say one thing, I can't watch you on TV and make sure I say the exact same thing.
Right.
Now it appears the Democrats have enough goods that they can proceed. It can be an open, it can be televised, which says a couple of things, doesn't it? I mean, they feel like they've got the goods. And the president should perhaps be a little bit more nervous.
Yes, I think that's true. And I also believe that the vote had three key components. One is, as you said, it called the Republican and the Trump White House's bluff, that they wouldn't go on record with a vote. Secondly, it required members of Congress to go on record individually. Now, the reason that's important is it was no surprise that all the Democrats but two voted for it and none of the Republicans voted for it. That's going to be problematic for Republicans in moderate districts because keep in mind, this wasn't a vote to impeach Donald Trump. This was a vote to start the inquiry officially. And what are these Republican moderates going to say to their constituents when they didn't even believe what is alleged didn't even rise to the level of investigation? That's going to be hard for some of these folks.
And the problem they have for our international audience is the greatest fear for somebody running from office is that you'll be outflanked if you're on the Democratic side on the left,
right.
Republican on the right. So they don't want a primary challenge. I mean, that's one of the reasons. They're kind of boxed in a way, aren't they?
Right, and the president, he's very savvy when it comes to using those political machinations because even today he's already allocating cash for state campaigns, mostly in the Senate, but I'm sure it will follow in the House. So even if you're in a district that's moderate, you have to be careful because not only will you might have a primary opponent, you might have one funded by the Republican Party.
Let's talk about messaging because Nancy Pelosi said this, she's the Speaker of the House. Every member should support the American people hearing the facts for themselves. That is what this vote is about. It's about the truth, and what is at stake in all of this is nothing less than our democracy. That's a pretty compelling argument. Trump's argument is it's a witch hunt. It seems like a repeat of what he's used in the past. They're obviously playing to the court of public opinion. How do each side kind of venture forward with their messages?
Well, I noticed, especially in the White House statement, they were just factual errors. For example, they had the argument that it wasn't an open process and attorneys could participate, which was true before, but they're saying that's still the case, okay? So there are factual inaccuracies. But Donald Trump is very good at putting forward a simple message, true or not, that he hammers in till people believe it. Now, what can counter that for the Democrats is if these televised testimonies are as engaging as I think they will be.
Because now it's just paper, you read it, but boy, somebody coming up there and saying it, it gets a lot more dramatic. Morrison pretty much backing up what we've been hearing to this point. What about John Bolton? Do you think he'll come and how pivotal will he be? Because he's really establishment Republican, or at least was in that lane for a long time.
Well, I think this is a reminder that you don't throw people under the bus until you make sure you don't need them again. Now, I don't think that former National Security Advisor Bolton wants to be the one to have the testimony that makes impeachment happen, but I also don't think there's any love lost with the White House or President Trump. And according to some of the testimony so far, he at least was alerted of a potential problem. So his testimony could be key. I do think he will testify. How open he will be is another question.
Let me ask you one final question before we go. Everyone's talking about public opinion, the polls, they're inching a little bit in this direction or that direction. How much significance should we put in this, given the fact it's early and we haven't heard anybody in front of a camera?
I think that it's, like you said, early, but also no matter what your feelings are about the president, about what he did, impeachment's a big deal. And Americans like stability. And so making this change, even if a lot of people wanted it, is going to be scary in the beginning. But I think once we see the testimonies, and if the Democrats make their case, I think just as in the Nixon impeachment, that people will kind of see, they may not vote to get rid of Donald Trump, but they will at least see that this is serious enough to rise to the level of investigation.
Calvin Dark, always a pleasure. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.